Zack Polanski did a recent interview with Peeps, a YouTube channel. Go and check them out. They do some really good stuff where he spoke about not splitting the vote, encouraged figures like Andrew Feinstein to join the Green Party, and how we bring people over, even Tories and even Reform voters. Let's get straight into the clip.
I suppose I'm getting a little bit more feisty with it when people say to me, why don't you stand aside for X, Y, and Z, or why don't you do this? And my argument's like, rather than DMing me or messaging me, go message them. Go message them and say, why are you risking losing this election when the Green Party aren't even particularly campaigning in your area, but just have a candidate so people have choice? And I think it is important that people have choice. You can't assume that if a Green Party candidate doesn't stand, all of those votes would just go to one place. They could go all sorts of places. And I think it's important, people message me all the time and say, I was really excited to vote Green for the first time because I saw you on a podcast or saw one of your spokespeople on the TV. And you weren't on the ballot paper. And I do think that's heartbreaking. And actually, I think people should have the choice to vote Green. And so I would say, to Andrew Feinstein, if he wants to beat Keir Starmer, and I really want him to beat Keir Starmer, then join the Green Party, because his independent vote plus the Green Party demonstrates that Holborn and St Pancras could knock out the leader of the Labour Party, who I think most of the country absolutely can't stand at this point. That would be really exciting. So stop messaging me and telling me not to stand when we're a political party, that Andrew seems to align with our values and doesn't say anything that he doesn't align with our values, and start putting pressure on Andrew. Polite pressure, let's always be kind, but say, hey man, join the Green Party. They're saying you're welcome.
And with the shit show of what happened with your party or whatever they're going to be called, and Turn Left does some really good following of this story. I hope Zara Sultana and Jeremy Corbyn, just in maybe a year, 2 years, just go to the Greens. We need leftist unity right now. And the right, I mean, there's always going to be fragmentations, even on the right. But I think we really need to rally around pragmatic, and we need to be pragmatic. This is why Zack Polanski is cutting through. He is pragmatic in the same way Mamdani is. They are thinking about, what can we win? What wins with people? Cost of living. That's it. That's it. I mean, NATO, important discussion to have, but people aren't there. Most people are not there. We need to be focused on taxing the wealthy and cost of living, and just repeat, like they don't, like Trump. Repeat, repeat, repeat. That's what we need to be doing, just every day talking about it.
For you, Zach, would you describe yourself as a socialist?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't use the word much because I think it can just put people off. And I think if you can describe your socialist politics in terms of redistributive economics, challenging...
I think that's really pragmatic as well. I'm a socialist. I don't talk about socialist theory. I don't, because people aren't there, and that's a long way off. We're fighting fascism right now, and we need people to come over to our side and go, actually, yes, I was allured by fascism. It's a very tempting story, but I realize now, actually, yeah, the billionaire elite are not on my side. Now, Nigel Farage wants to cut the minimum wage for young people to below £10 an hour. They hate us. They don't care about young people. They don't care about young kids with special needs. They're going to cut as much as they can get away with, which actually won't be much, because we've already had 14 years of austerity. People are on their knees. They don't want any more. They want a wealth tax so we can fund our public spending. And they do. It's a popular policy. 75% of the British public want it. And we need to give it to them.
Wealthy and power and status, and saying, let's move that around and let's make sure particularly the poorest communities are supported. Then I think that speaks to people more than a word that they might not necessarily understand. But of course, eco-socialist politics is exactly where I'm at.
But you've had quite a political journey, right? Because it was back in 2015 that you were on stage at Lib Dem Party conference singing "Ain't No Mountain High Enough," and now here you are running to be Greens. I mean, how did that sort of political journey happen?
Yeah, I'd love that. If you'd asked me this question a few years ago, I think I used to have a slight panic of, oh, this question's come up again. And I've just got really comfortable with it, because actually I really realised that's the journey I want other people to go on. I know that not enough people have woken up or been born and landed in the Green Party, because otherwise we'd be a much bigger party than we already are, despite growing. What we do have is lots of people who know that they are politically homeless and are looking for a place. So that's great, join the Green Party, and that's a very easy argument to make. But I would say to people who are in the Lib Dems, or even the Tories, because I think there are Tories who found Boris Johnson despicable. Kemi Badenoch is now just absolutely outrageous, and actually they want to conserve things. They want to conserve green spaces. They want to conserve our democracy, and they recognise that actually fundamentally the system is so unfair now that it is no longer defendable. So I think there's lots of people.
I think even reform, although obviously he won't get them in immigration, but certainly wealth taxes and some form of redistribution, because a lot of reforms base are anti-corporate. They see the billionaires just not paying taxes, exploiting their workers, paying them shit wages, and we need to tap into that and go, actually, you are welcome here. You are welcome here. And the next bit he says really nice actually, because we need to be able to let people make mistakes and come over, even if they are Reform, Tory, Lib Dems. And that's why actually I really like the fact that he was a Lib Dem. He's not just been an ardent socialist since he was 16. He has gone on that journey, and he was a Lib Dem, and he looks cute singing and maybe a bit cringe. And I've seen right wingers just post, I think the Guido Fawkes YouTube channel posted that video of him singing. Like, that makes him look bad. It just makes him look human. He's singing, he's in the moment. He looks excited and he's in the. I mean, what's to hate there?
People from all sorts of parties that believe things that I don't agree with. But actually, I would like them to go on the same political journey that I've been on. And I went on the journey not because someone shouted, traitor at me or you're awful, but I saw Natalie Bennett in 2015 stand on stage during the debates and talk about the need to protect Syrian refugees. And I'd never seen someone speak with such principle on a national stage. A year later, during the Brexit referendum, I heard Caroline Lucas speak over and over again for European values and about the climate and nature crisis. And that's when I was like, that's the party that actually I feel at home on. So I've been on that journey, and that's what makes me absolutely convinced that literally millions of more people can be on that journey. And I don't think we should. I think we should judge people on what they're doing and what they're saying and where they're going. In fact, there's a Tony Benn quote: "I don't care where you've been, show me where you're going."
And
I love that quote. I really do think that is so powerful for where we are now, where we're more divided than ever. But Zach wants to be that example of, his appearance on Piers Morgan TV interviews, where people see, oh yeah, actually, he is focused on the cost of living. I can't afford to pay my rent, and I'm being exploited by my boss. He's looking after my concerns. He's not harping on about immigration. He's saying something different, and novelty goes a long way with people because 25 years ago, the immigration debate was novelty. 2014, the Brexit debate was novelty. No one talks about Brexit anymore. And I think in a couple of years, the immigration debate, because it's shoved down our throats every day, I think there will be that fatigue. And I think it's already happening with that question time last week with Matt Goodwin. I think people are going, actually, yeah, there's only so many times you can scapegoat migrants for all of our social ills.
I mean, for what you just said, right, about you even being happy to have people who have previously voted Tory then coming to Green. I mean, the Green Party do have this funny thing, right, where you can get votes from people who might be viewed as quite conservative, but they have these real problems or real issues about the environment. They really want to conserve their green spaces. They really care about climate change, but aren't necessarily aligned on all of those social policies or don't care about them as much. And then you've obviously got this quite metropolitan young people who care about sort of the socialist values that the Green Party tries to uphold.
And even Tories that see that the Overton window is shifted so far to the right. You've got Jenrick, Badenoch, Farage, all far right in each other, further mass deportations, pushing it as far as they can. And a lot of Tories will be alienated by that. And they're going, okay, like we saw with Lord Heseltine, he was like, yeah, Farage is a fascist. Like one of the few people in the mainstream actually calling Farage's fascism out. So there are people. And we need a broad tent. We need to win. We need the numbers.
It's quite a broad spectrum to be catering to. How do you cut through?
Yeah, I think this is much easier than people imagine it is. So I did a lot of door knocking during the general election in deep rural seats. Now, I live in Hackney. I'm a London Assembly member. I'm wearing Doc Martens as we speak. Putting on wellies is not my it's not natural to me.
You're not going to be out on the farm.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. But people are people, whether you live deep in the city or whether you live in the countryside. And when I knock on doors in deep rural areas, even things like rent controls. People recognize that whether it's their children or grandchildren and they're living in the cities and they can't afford their rent and they're at threat of Section 21 eviction notices or whatever it might be, they recognize that's a deep problem. When you talk about the fact that, multimillionaires and billionaires, as I've spoken about in this interview a few times, but are earning more money than people could imagine in their lifetimes. Like billionaires shouldn't even exist. Like I think that I think we're at a point in politics and in society where people are recognizing those things now, despite their previous voting history. So I'm not being disingenuous. Do I turn up on the doorstep in the exact same way? No, even down to like what you wear. You have a think about that. I think that's basic communication. Know your audience. But I'm not changing my values and I'm not changing my policies. It's a bit like if you're on a market and you're selling something, you're still selling the same thing, but just the way you shout about it or talk to the customer might be a little bit different. I'm always wary of analogies about customers because we're citizens and not customers. But in this analogy, I think that works.
Massively so, because we have got to win. We have got to win. And we're going to see, and we are seeing already a massive backlash towards Trumpism. He's going to be a gift to the left. Maybe not the DNC because they're a shit show right now. But when Mamdani wins today, in American time, today, people vote today, we'll find out tomorrow. There's energy, the energy is going to go across the world. Polanski's creating that energy. And we need to be ready. We need to be pragmatic. We need to not be infighting over things that most people don't really care about. We need to focus on cost of living. It's the message. It's getting it out there. And if you haven't already joined the Green Party, join from £6 a year. We need to be getting Zack Polanski out there. The message is the most important thing. Repetition and countering Farage and Richard Tice and all these demagogues who most people know don't care about them. They're professional career politicians. Zack Polanski is authentic, and that's why they're attacking him. That's why they hate him. That's why the media have no idea what to do with him, because he's cutting through. So hit the like button, join the membership from 99 pence a month, and I'll see you in the next video.